What's up, my comic comrades? A couple of weeks ago at the D23 Expo, Marvel Studios announced the character lineup for their Phase 5 Thunderbolts movie. The team consists of Valentina, Ghost, Red Guardian, the new Black Widow, Winter Soldier, US Agent, and Taskmaster. Well, at least a character the MCU likes to call Taskmaster, but without it being Taskmaster at all. Can you sense the passive aggressiveness? Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, unless they held back a surprise or two, this roster is pretty weak. Sure, all the characters have already been introduced to us as villains or anti-heroes, and this would be a good way to bring them all together and put them in the spotlight. But while many, if not all of the characters announced were expected, I think most of us were hoping to see the Thunderbolts movie introduce at least a couple of new characters, which is exactly what we're here to discuss. First, let's talk a little bit about who the Thunderbolts are in the comics and a few other ways the MCU could have gone with the team. For those of you who don't know, the Thunderbolts are essentially Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad, and they've gone through many incarnations over the years. They started out as a team formed by Baron Zemo comprised of supervillains that eventually betrayed him. They were also Norman Osborn's personal hit squad and have even been a government-sponsored prison reform project. Hence me saying they're Marvel's Suicide Squad. In fact, the one thing all incarnations of the team have had in common over the years is they were made up of anti-heroes or supervillains that would cross the line your normal heroic superhero would not. Anyway, as I mentioned, the team started with Baron Zemo. You see, after Onslaught seemingly killed the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, Zemo initially sought to create a new team of the Masters of Evil. But with Captain America now dead and vengeance no longer on the table, he changed his goals to gaining power. And he figured the best way to do so was to gain the trust of the world by pretending to be superheroes. So with the help of a character called the Fixer, Baron Zemo and the Masters of Evil altered their appearance, posing as new heroes called the Thunderbolts. Since the public didn't know that the Thunderbolts were actually villains, Zemo and the Masters actually did some good as heroes, even fighting a bunch of other villains. Eventually, the Avengers and Fantastic Four returned and the rest of the Thunderbolts turned on Zemo, leading to his defeat. The team would go on to see many changes over the years. Hawkeye would even become a very popular member of the team. Then you would get Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts, which consisted of him as the leader and Moonstone as the field leader. Then you also have Bullseye, Penance, Radioactive Man, Swordsman, Songbird, and Mac Gargan Venom. Following that incarnation, we got Hammer's Thunderbolts, consisting of Black Widow, Ghost, Headsman, Grizzly, Mr. X, Scourge, Eric O'Grady Ant-Man, and Paladin. Luke Cage even had a version of the Thunderbolts during the Heroic Age storyline. His team consisted of Ghost, Moonstone, Juggernaut, Crossbones, and Man-Thing. However, the version of the Thunderbolts I personally think they should have pulled inspiration from the most is the Red Hulk's Thunderbolts, or General Ross's Thunderbolts. This is the 2013 version of the team from Marvel Now, and it's a fan favorite incarnation. I know it's my favorite version of the team. It consists of Red Hulk, aka General Ross, Elektra, Agent Venom, Deadpool, and the Punisher, with Ghost Rider and Red Leader joining the team later on. In issue 1 of the 2013 Thunderbolt comic, we see Frank Castle tied to a pole as General Ross takes a video of him captured. He then says a lot of people with last names ending in vowels are going to be showing up soon. Very soon. If I had to guess, I'd say 8 minutes. Maybe. No, probably less. You've been taking an axe to their various family trees for quite some time after all. In the meantime, we should talk. As issue 1 goes on, we see General Ross has been traveling around the world recruiting different members for his Thunderbolts, such as Agent Venom, Deadpool, and Elektra. He convinces them to join by strong-arming them, essentially making them offers they can't refuse and or just enticing them. Basically, General Ross acts as the Amanda Waller of this version of the Thunderbolts. As the first several issues unfold, we see that he handpicked a group of like-minded individuals, all of which are complete loners, to come together to accomplish something they might not be able to do on their own. With his Thunderbolts, he intends to cut out the cancer of evil that attacks the world. It's pretty cool. The fact that Marvel Studios seemingly has not pulled from this incarnation of the team is a missed opportunity in our opinion, because much like the team they're going with already, this version has several characters that already exist in the MCU, but it adds several other fan-loved characters they've already teased, and that would have brought a ton of hype to the movie. Speaking of teams, when was the last time you got together with your own team to explore another realm? Well, we can help. We were recently introduced to this amazing Dungeons & Dragons style game set in the world of Middle-earth called The One Ring. They recently dropped the game's 2nd edition, and if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings or fantasy in general, you have to try this for yourself. The game gives you the chance to explore Middle-earth in the Third Age, 20 years after Bilbo Baggins set out on his journey to the Lonely Mountain, and before the events of Lord of the Rings. And with the starter set, you get a starter rulebook which lets you play Bilbo and other hobbits as you set out on adventures, along with all the information you need to navigate through the world, like this big full-color map of the Shire and Eriador. But if you want the full experience, you'll want to add the One Ring Core Rules volume, which adds over 200 pages of even greater detail on Middle-earth, as well as rules for traveling across Middle-earth, fighting enemies, a complete landmark adventure, and detailed advice for the lore master. We definitely recommend grabbing the One Ring bundle so you could have the full experience. The game is available now at freeleaguepublishing.com or at your local hobby store. Just click our link in the description and use discount code VARIANT at checkout to get 20% off any and all the One Ring items. That discount is valid for one purchase per customer and expires on September 30th, which means you only have a couple of weeks to grab that One Ring game bundle with that discount, so don't miss it. Okay, so with the knowledge of several versions of the Thunderbolts in comics comics and the fact that Marvel Studios is reintroducing the Netflix Marvel characters into the MCU proper, like Daredevil and Kingpin, a couple of other opportunities seem ripe for the taking. For instance, Rosario Dawson recently slipped during a panel at Comic-Con and revealed that Punisher will also be making his way to the MCU. So with the confirmation of Jon Bernthal Punisher coming over eventually, and the fact that Daredevil and Kingpin are already in the MCU proper, we know Punisher could have been on this team. Could you imagine Jon Bernthal Punisher making his MCU cinematic debut in this film? It would have broke the internet. The inclusion of the Daredevil series into the MCU also means you could have added Elektra to the Thunderbolts team as well. So out the gate, those are two key members of the 2013 Thunderbolts lineup that were right there for the taking. But we also know Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool is going to be part of the MCU after Disney bought 20th Century Fox. Again, people would have lost their minds. So between Punisher, Elektra, and Deadpool, that's more than half of the 2013 Thunderbolts lineup. With Marvel teasing Venom in the post-credit scene of No Way Home, they also could have used the Thunderbolts to fully introduce the Venom symbiote into the MCU. Marvel's been teasing Venom for quite some time now, and we've all been waiting to see how they would bring Venom into the MCU proper, so that's an open door to do that. Now that would have meant involving Sony, and admittedly, introducing Venom here wouldn't be my preference, as I would personally rather they save Venom's full MCU debut for a solo Spider-Man film or Secret Wars. But the point is, that's another option to add some spice to the Thunderbolts team. Okay, so we talked about how Marvel could have added Punisher, Elektra, Deadpool, and even Venom to the Thunderbolts team. But you know who else already exists in the MCU? General Ross. He just hasn't become Red Hulk yet, which we're all waiting to see, and this movie could have introduced that. Now, unfortunately, William Hurt, who portrayed General Ross in the MCU, sadly passed away, so he would have to be recast. It's just a matter of whether Marvel Studios feels okay recasting his character. In my opinion, the Red Hulk needs to be introduced at some point in the MCU. He's such a cool character and would add a very interesting dynamic to the universe. Anyway, that's 4 characters that already exist in the MCU, but 4 more characters that would have made everyone way more interested in the team. And then for the 5th and final character they could have introduced, Ghost Rider. Fans would have lost their minds, especially if it was Johnny Blaze or Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. Bro, internet destroyed. I do want to clarify, this is like a dream team lineup. I don't think anyone expected for them to introduce all of these characters, because if they had, this could have potentially been one of the biggest MCU movies, period. But most of us were absolutely hoping they'd introduce at least 1 or 2 of them. And if they had, the response from fans would have been much bigger. It's also important to note once again that the Thunderbolts originally came to be because of Baron Zemo, who was introduced to the MCU in Captain America Civil War and then played a huge role in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. But so far, there's bizarrely been no mention of him appearing in the film. He's been a very cool addition to the MCU, and he formed the Thunderbolts in the comics, so it'd be cool if they had him involved somehow. Who knows, he might already be in the film, and Marvel just isn't showing all their cards yet. Basically, there's a lot of different ways they could have gone with this team, and since everything I just said was probably never going to happen because that's just too much awesome, a compromise roster that would have been more realistic could have been US Agent, Ghost, Punisher, Taskmaster, Red Guardian, Black Widow, and Red Hulk. That's just a 2-character change, and it would have made a massive difference. But overall, I'm very underwhelmed with this lineup and wish we would have gotten at least someone like the Punisher, Deadpool, or Red Hulk. I'm sure the movie is gonna be fun either way. I'm just saying I would have gone with different characters. But what do you guys think? Do you like the roster we got and think we're crazy, or do you have your own Thunderbolts dream team? Let us know in the comments. And that's gonna bring today's episode to a close. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, like, subscribe, and comment. It always helps us out. But other than that, I'll see you next time when I talk about all things comics.